boy, have I got an exciting game for you to show you today. I haven't got the game with me. Sorry, I was so excited I actually forgot to bring the game again. One second. Roar! Or... it does a sound, but regardless, Raptor is a two-player game that I'm so excited about. I haven't been this excited about a game all year long. This game's really good, and this is why. Honestly, I'm so excited. A little bit of Wii came out.
My mama cooks in Italy, mama swims in Argentina, mama's got a chunga, yeah.
Raptor is a two-player asymmetrical board game. And by the way, every time I say Raptor, you're supposed to say... Yeah, that's right. So, Raptor is a two-player asymmetrical board game where you either play the Raptor mother trying to protect her babies or the evil scientists who are trying to capture them. And I couldn't be more excited about Raptor for many reasons, but the number one reason Raptor is so good, it takes just a few seconds to set up. Just look. And that's it. We're done. The game's set up. And the next brilliant bit about Raptor is that actually it's so easy to explain. I bet I could explain it within about, let's say, 15 seconds. Each player gets a deck of cards. The decks are specific to the Raptor or the Scientist player. Now, the deck is formed of 9 cards, which are numbered 1 through 9. And at the start of the game, you will draw exactly 3 cards, and at the start of your turn, you will play one of them. You will then compare the numbers to the cards, and the lower number gets to resolve whatever abilities on the card, whereas the higher number gets the difference between the numbers in action points, and then does the action points. That's it. That's the game. That's the entire game. And you would say, Efka, are you actually excited about a game that's core mechanic is pretty much based on Uno, but slightly reversed and with slightly more complexity? Yes, I am. Yeah, another thing that's cool about Raptor is that each player has 2 unique, different win conditions. So the Raptor mother is trying to get her babies to safety, and the babies are so adorable. Aren't these just like the tiny little cutest things in the world? She's trying to get them to safety before the scientist captures them. So one of her victory conditions is to have 3 of her babies reach these half-shaped spaces and leave the board. So as soon as 3 of them are gone, she wins the game. She can also win the game by simply eating all the scientists on the board. Now the scientists, conversely, either need to capture 3 of these tiny cute baby little, they're so adorable. They need to capture those 3 little baby raptors, or otherwise tranquilize the mother until she's asleep and no longer a threat, and they can just take whatever baby raptors they want. Oh, I forgot to do the raptors. Raptor. There we go. The number one puzzle you're presented in Raptor as a scientist is how you're actually going to capture the babies. See, anytime you play a lower number on a card than your opponent, you only get to do whatever the card says, and that could be very specific things, like put 2 scientists on the board, and then you get to put scientists onto the long edges of the boards. You've got 2 extra ones, but you can't do anything with them this turn. However, the Raptor player would then get action points and would be able to move or eat or put out fires or have the babies escape and various useful things. That's not to say that those cards are not useful when their abilities resolve. Actually, those cards are incredibly useful and one of the key things in the game. But I want to tell you about capturing babies. You see, one of the things you can do as an action point as a scientist is put a baby raptor to sleep. Only when the baby raptor is asleep, you're able to then capture it, but you can only do 1 aggressive action per turn. So if one scientist uses an action to put a baby raptor to sleep, that same scientist cannot then capture it as well, because that would be another aggressive action, and they can only perform 1. They can either put a baby to sleep, and then they'll probably make themselves a cup of tea, Marmite on toast. That's all they can do in one day. That's it. They're done. So then the trick in Raptor is to figure out how to engineer advantageous positioning. See, if I have two scientists there, and one of them puts one baby raptor to sleep, and another one captures him, that's great. That's 1/3 of my victory objectives achieved, right? However, you can never forget that on any given subsequent turn, you never know what the opponent is going to do. They will either resolve a very powerful ability from one of the cards, or worse yet, they'll get a ton of action points. And the Raptor Mother is insane. She is as threatening and devastating as you imagine her to be. She will swoop over, and as a single action point, she can just swoop over the board, just like that, wherever she wants to, as long as it's in a straight line, she can get there. And for another action point, she can just eat a scientist, and the scientist's gone. See, that's the great thing about Raptor. Everything you do, even though the game is incredibly abstract, and it is really just all about positioning and simultaneous card revealing, it feels thematic. Scientists can create fire, and the fire doesn't, you don't just put a fire token, you create a line of fire, and you can create that line however you like, as long as it follows one sequential progression from one point to the next, and that fire is then impassable. But the mother raptor can stand next to a fire, and as long as she puts out one fire token with her tail, all the fire tokens that connect to that fire token are put out as well. And the cards themselves are thematic as well. You have a card that says, I'm gonna find it in a second. It took a while to get there, didn't it? We have a card that says you can remove the mother raptor from the board, and then at the end of the turn, she'll reappear wherever you want to, and you'll be able to see what is the next card that the opposing player is going to play, giving you invaluable information. That is not to say that there isn't luck in Raptor. There is. It's a tiny filler game. It plays very quick, and it is somewhat luck-based, and that does bring surprises to the game, and I think luck in this game is fine. But you might just open a starting hand like this, whereas you remember, like I said, if you play the higher number, you always get to get a number of action points which is equal to the difference between the two cards played. So if someone plays a 1 and the other player plays a 9, the scientist player in this case would get 8 action points, which feels like you've just allowed a toddler with ADD to run rampant through your living room with a lawnmower. Never a good idea, but sometimes you just have to go with the punches in Raptor and just accept what's happening. But no matter how bad the luck is, you never feel like you've been completely eliminated from the game until you actually have. Raptor has great catch-up mechanics because even though you might have a bad turn, the cards themselves are so powerful that you never feel like this is it, I'm done. You feel like I'm in big trouble, but you never feel like, my head's being eaten. See, I thought when I started playing Raptor that it's all about resolving a card with a higher number when you need to resolve it, because then you get the action points and then you get to do cool things like killing scientists or putting baby raptors to sleep. But actually, that's not the trick to the game. The trick to the game is playing low cards when you need to play low cards. And actually, more often than not, you want to play a card with a lower number. But the key thing is observing what your opponent has already played, what cards are no longer available to them, and playing a low card with an exact number that is just below whatever they're going to play, because then they're only going to get a measly 1 or 2 action points, which they can't do a lot with, and you're going to resolve some really redonkulous abilities. Scientists, who are normally very slow, if they resolve this free, for example, they get 2 jeep movements, which means you can move 2 scientists along the board in a straight line as far as you want to. And that's freaking terrifying, because in this situation, if I did that, I could move this scientist here, and I could move this scientist here, and the next turn, if I get to do action points, all I need is 2 action points to capture that baby. That's it, done. Every time each player reveals their cards feels full of tension, suspense, and anticipation and excitement, because you never know what's going to happen. You might have a plan in your head. But that's not necessarily what you're going to get. If the card resolves the way you expect it to resolve, then that's great. You get to go ahead and do the thing you want to do. But if it doesn't, then you need to figure out a different strategy, a different approach to what you were trying to do. And that way the game feels very fresh. But it never bogs you down. The turns in Raptor feels lightning fast. And the game is over within 10 or 15 minutes, and then you're done, and you want to play again, and you want to play again, and you want to play again. You want to play as the scientist first, and then as the Raptor, then as the scientist again. Then you want to see if the Raptor is better or the scientist is better, and you can't figure it out because the results are always different. And sometimes you have close games by the skin of your teeth, and sometimes you just have runaway winners. But it really, really doesn't matter, because no matter what you're doing, it feels just so thematic, so tense, so suspenseful, and so great. And I don't often rave about games so much, but I've enjoyed every single moment I played of Raptor, and I've been playing it a lot lately. And here's one final thing that I have to say about Raptor. Now, we tried to do balanced reviews, which this clearly isn't, but I tried to find a negative thing about it, and I came up zilch until Elaine pointed out something to me. Now, the theme of Raptor is pretty cool because it has that sort of sense of Jurassic Park and, you know, dinosaur stories, that kind of thing. But if you remove the fact that these are scientists, because these are effectively people holding guns, even though they're with tranquilizers, and if you replace raptors with any other baby animal that does exist in today, then you might suddenly not feel that great about the thing. But that is really the only thing. Everything else stands out. The miniatures, for what they are gorgeous. The setup is quick. The game is punchy. It's just everything I want a filler board game to be. I just wish there was a way to incorporate more players I can share this game with. But every time I played this game in a club or at the shop or whatever, in public, right, people couldn't help but look, people couldn't help but be curious, and people couldn't help but be excited about it. And I'm still really excited about it. So there you go. Raptor gets probably one of my best recommendations for a game.
My mama cooks in Italy, mama swims in Argentina, mama's got a chunga, yeah. My mama's works in Venezuela, mama likes Cinderella, mama's got a chunga, yeah.